Hi, and welcome to the Cumming Strength and Fitness Fitcast. I'm Jill, coach and owner of CS&F, and I'm here along with my team to take your fitness experience to a new level. In each episode, we'll bring you helpful conversations with our coaches, members, and guests to provide additional value to your gym experience and understanding to our mission at CS&F to change lives through fitness. Hope you enjoy the episode.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Cumming Strength and Fitness Fitcast. I am your host, Alex, and if we have not met yet, thank you so much for jumping on the Fitcast today. In the studio, we have the best coaches, owners, Thorntons I know. We have Hunter and Jill. They're back. Guys, how are you doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
I
How are
hope
you
we're the
guys?
best Thorntons you know.
Honestly, I don't know if I know another set of Thorntons. If I do, I apologize. Nothing
So we just
personal.
win by default then.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I've never met another Cottingham that I'm not related to.
Interesting. I know a Cottingham who lives in Cumming.
Me?
No, different one.
Really?
Yeah.
You've never told me this.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll introduce you to him. He's
Okay,
your
cool.
long-lost brother from another mother.
Oh, wow.
Perfect. Well, guys, today the topic of conversation is all about fitness. And the main question we're just kind of boiling down is, what is fitness? So a lot of people come to the gym here, Cumming Strength and Fitness, say, oh, I want to get fit. But when you go to Google or the dictionary and you type in fitness, it just says the state of being fit, right? It's like that's not very helpful at all. So we just kind of want to unpack that, paint a picture of what really is fitness. So Hunter, I'm going to turn to you. What would you say in regards to someone says, I want to get fit, or what is fitness?
Yeah, it's a big question that's been looming out there really since, back in the day, I guess, for, like you said, the dictionary doesn't even really give a really good quantifiable, or what I would call a quantifiable definition. But I guess the way that we define it, or we look at it is, who has the broadest set of skills. And so kind of the whole idea of a jack of all trades, master of none. When it comes to fitness, I think is the broadest and best approach, meaning, I played soccer and fortunate to play in college. I could run really well, had really good stamina. My flexibility was not the greatest just because I was running so much, had fair enough speed. But when it came to like pulling or anything like that, like I could barely eke out a few pull-ups back then because I was so focused, and we jokingly called it, we were soccer fit, but we weren't broadly fit. So I guess I'm an analogy guy. So when I look at fitness, probably the most fittest athlete growing up would probably be a decathlete, someone who is given a broad set of events or whatnot and saying, how can you perform across these multitudes of skills, athleticism and stuff, and be the best performer of those. So, I mean, like even back in the Olympics, it was Dave versus Dave Johnson, Dave O'Brien. I think it was who it was. Like, who was the most well-rounded athlete? I think that's kind of an easy example to describe what I believe is the most fit person, is how I would look at it.
So, Hunter, we have a very specific methodology when it comes to that fitness, because you talked about like that quantifiable prescription of fitness. So talk to somebody about what is that prescription when it comes to getting somebody fit here at Cumming Strength and Fitness.
Yeah, so what we look at it, and I guess the way I look at it is there's a multitude of ways of doing it. And I guess I'll start with we subscribe to a gentleman wrote a very eloquent definition, a 100-word definition of what is fitness. And if you go through and read it, it talks a broad thing. It talks about nutrition, talks about the 10 skills, or I guess the 10 elements of fitness. And I can list off some of them: cardio, endurance, stamina, strength, flexibility, power, speed, coordination, agility, balance, accuracy. A broad set of skills. As I mentioned earlier, we're not a master. We're more of a broad set approach. And how do we master those elements? So I want to be the most broadly fit person. And then we look at it a couple other ways too, is like, okay, but I also don't want to be a sprinter and then can only run for, a couple minutes and be exhausted. I want to have, as I mentioned earlier, stamina to be able to, if I want to go with my kids to go run a 10K on the weekend, I want to be fit enough to be able to do that.
GPP.
Yeah, general physical preparedness idea, kind of almost like the military. And that's where a lot of the fitness principles came out of, was birthed out of the military, is how can I be ready for what the world throws throws at, whether that's lifting up something heavy off the ground, putting overhead, and putting on the top shelf in the pantry, or if it's grabbing my kids and going for a jog. How can I be broadly fit? And there's a couple of different ways we can look at that. We can dive into some of those as well. But that's really the idea, is how can I be broadly skilled to tackle the day in and day out tasks that I'm faced to challenge with.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite examples of, kind of the opposite ends of fitness is you take the world's strongest man. Obviously, he can lift a lot of weights, but you ask him to run a mile and it's going to be a struggle. So in terms of general physical preparedness, he does not kind of encompass all of those physical skill sets, right? But he's very specialized in what he does. Then you take the world-class level marathon runner and you ask him to do a back squat, and that's also going to be an underperforming movement for him just based on what they specialize in. So like Hunter said, we're not specialists, we're generalists. We just want to be generally fit in all of those different domains.
One of the analogies that I like to paint the picture of for some of my athletes, some of the people I talk to, is think of like a pie and it's different slices of the pie. So the fitness, if you want to get fit, it's the entire pie. Where one slice of the pie is, yes, I'm going to be able to back squat a really heavy weight. And another slice of the pie is I'm going to be able to do 50 push-ups. Another slice of the pie is I want to run 1 mile. Another slice of the pie is I want to be able to be proficient in the barbell, where every single slice of that pie is a specialty in and of itself. But when you look at that pie in its entirety, or fitness in its entirety, they all comprise a very fundamental and formative piece to the overall aim of what you're trying to do, which is fitness. Which is why when you look at our prescription or even our programming when you come to the gym, you'll notice how you'll have a couple different elements on one day and then we'll change it up the next day because you're getting those different slices of the pie. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, so we largely categorize the movements that we do, or you mentioned programming, and programming is just a fancy word for basically what is the layout of how we're going to tackle this big animal of fitness through movements and protocols, and there's a big idea around that, and we leverage what we call it's not really a fancy word. It's basically randomized programming. And random does not mean chaotic. It means it is planned out. That's why it's called a program or programming. It's very thoughtful. We'll dive into that topic on another day and much deeper, but it's very much intentional randomized programming, both going long in distance, short in distance, heavy, light. But we categorize those, as you were mentioning, into really 3 buckets. There's monostructural, which would be like a running, rowing, jumping rope, box jump, stuff like that. There's gymnastic movements, which would be like body weights. You mentioned 50 push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, those things. And there's weightlifting, moving a weighted object through space for time, which is, could be a barbell, could be a kettlebell. So we take those 3 components, those 3 elements, mix them in with different types of time periodizations. You could look at the 3 energy pathways. I don't want to go all nerd out, but going long, short, medium, intervals. And we put all that recipe together, and your body, through randomized programming, has a struggle adapting like you would if you were a marathon runner. Marathon runner, the body adapts quickly. You just continually add more volume, distance over time. So in the gym, we're throwing, hey, let's go for a 1 mile run. Then we're going to throw some push-ups, some weightlifting movements. And then the next day, we're going to do some short intervals of 3 minutes of work. So we're really testing all the elements of a broad, inclusive, functional movement program together to give the recipe to spit out the most fit person or most fit version of yourself.
And Jill, I want you to tap into a little personal background of yours too, because you've been doing this for quite some time, but you also, this isn't the only thing you have done. You've done tennis, you've done marathon running before, but when it comes to just preparing you for life's demands, helping you be a better mom, a better business owner, sleeping better, all these different benefits. Talk to us about like the different, when we were talking about slices of the pie or different specialties, on some of the things you gained from them, but then also why have you settled with this specific programming or methodology or style of training versus all the other ones?
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing that comes to mind is that I've never gotten bored with CrossFit or functional fitness.
That's good.
Because it's always changing. Every day is something different.
Yeah.
So when I was training for a marathon and running every day, quite honestly, I got bored. And then it also took a very large toll on my body because I was never changing the protocol. I was doing the same thing, pounding the pavement day after day after day after day. My body never adapted. Of course, I gained endurance and stamina and things that you would as a long-distance runner, but
It was only one slice of that pie.
one slice of the pie. And then also the physical changes that I wanted to see in my body weren't happening with that type of training. So I was looking for something to change it up. And this type of training, like I said, is always different. There's always something new, and there's never you don't ever reach the top in this sport, in this form of fitness, because there's always a way to get better at something. Oh, you got your pull-up? Now let's work on your strict pull-ups, or a chest-to-bar pull-up, or a bar muscle-up, or a ring muscle-up. Got your ring muscle-ups? Let's do a weighted ring muscle-up. So there's always something next, and there's just never an element of boredom. And then the adaptation that my body has physically had, and, body composition has had due to this type of training has been exactly what I was looking for. So.
And I mean, we can talk a little bit more about some other channels we can get on this too. But what we really saw as people, novices getting into this 12, 13 years ago, was it also was a really, really strong return on investment. I mean, if you've come from the Globo days of buys and tries, and then you had to hit the treadmill, like you could easily spend an hour and a half, 2 hours in the gym if you really were pushing to get those physique goals or cut weight, whatever those goals were. But largely you can condense all that because you are getting your buys and tries in, you are getting the cardio while getting your buys, tries, and those elements, and you're condensing that into an hour and knocking it all out. And what we've found out is you're getting almost even better results.
Yes.
Obviously we have a bias personally because we enjoy it. But to Jill's point, you're kind of wrapping all those elements. You're getting some of the benefits of some longer distance running elements with some shorter sprints and stuff like that. It's all recipe thrown into a bowl and mixed up. And the outcome of it was it made us the fittest we've ever been.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, when I came from that mindset of cardio, I need more cardio to do this or to do, coming off of 45 minutes on an elliptical or, 15-mile run, and I started CrossFit and the workout was 6 minutes long, I was on my back for 10 minutes after, but I was like, was that enough? Like, was 6 minutes enough for me to, get a workout? Yes, it absolutely was enough. Mixed in with the other days of 15 minutes or 20 minutes and all of the constantly varied movements that we do, it's absolutely enough. So, I came from that more is more, but more is not necessarily more. Like Hunter said, return on investment, the type of training that we're doing at a high intensity is where you get the most bang for your buck.
So I want to just scratch the surface on this next piece, because this is a part of the fitness methodology that we're talking about. This is also empirical. It's measurable, it's repeatable, it is objective. And what I mean by that is we're not just randomly throwing a bunch of just chaotic things out in the gym and saying, go hurt yourself. I mean, that's a different conversation for a different day. But we are specifically looking at what, like you said, what are you going to get the best bang for your buck? But for example, let's say it is a 1 mile run with some push-ups and a barbell movement in there. Let's say you are going to do it as fast as you can. So for example, for time, let's say it's a 3 rounds for time. You get 10 minutes on this workout. Let's say in 2 years, you continue to train, you continue to get fitter. Then you do the exact same workout and now you're at 8 minutes. You have a quantifiable evidence on you actually got fitter, because 2 years ago with the same load, the same demand, the same workout, you got 10 minutes where now you got 8 minutes, which is another benefit because now there's evidence on, I've PR'd, which is in the language of a personal record. You've actually seen the improvement rather than just like thinking, I don't know if this is actually working. I'm plateaued. Now you're starting to doubt yourself. Talk to us a little bit about that, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the interesting elements that Jill and I, coming from a competitive background in our earlier years, found interesting too. I mean, even I think I redid a workout a month or two ago, and 12, 13 years into this, I still am PRing some elements of my fitness, which is crazy to think about, that as I'm aging, that I'm still improving and things like that. But that was one of the bigger pieces that I thought was intriguing, and really something that we believe here, even inside the gym, is when we bring people on board, we do some, I guess we use the word benchmark, some baseline workouts as they kind of get started and they understand these functional movements and they understand what intensity is, that we retest throughout their fitness journey with us so that we can say, hey, what you are doing is working, and here's the evidence. I mean, I'm a big believer in evidence-based experiencing and stuff, to say, hey, the proof is in the pudding. If you put in the work and you consistently show up, listen to your coach, you will progress
Yes.
and you will track towards those goals.
Yes.
Because here is how to do it. And, Jill and myself, and I'm sure you, Alex, too, we've all witnessed it. And that's one reason we're so passionate about it. Because not to pick on other fitness things, but we've done stuff where group class environments where you just go and sweat, and you may go home and look in the mirror like, wow, I feel good about myself, but there was nothing quantifiable over time to suggest that, hey, I actually am. But now we do that, and we take our members through that process so that they get to experience that progression.
So part of that is, I know those are a lot of science words, a lot of like research and data behind that, but one of the easiest, most practical ways to increase your fitness to get those PRs is through the word intensity, where when we do want to become fit, the fitter you want to become, just the more intense your workouts are going to become, because the more intense you push yourself, the fitter you are going to become. For example, in the 10-minute workout that we did 2 years ago versus the 8-minute one we did now, you obviously exerted a greater level of intensity to become a little bit fitter. So that's just another piece to the equation as well.
What I like to tell people is, the longer you do this, it doesn't get easier, you just get better.
Yes.
Therefore, it gets harder because you go faster.
Yes.
And you do more. So, there's no easier component to it.
So, guys, as we wrap up this conversation, I think there's been a lot of golden nuggets in this conversation that many people take away. Is I always like to leave people with a bottom line on, like, if you don't remember anything else from this conversation, always remember this one thing. And I'd love to give you guys that opportunity as well. But, for example, mine is when it comes to fitness, I know, like, we understand this terminology, but if you don't do this for a living, you're not passionate about it, I'm like, okay, that made sense, but I'm going to forget about it in 20 minutes. I always tell people the same thing. I've said it since college. This has been my personal mantra for the past 6-7 years is whenever I go work out, I try to lift something heavy and get out of breath. That's literally just comes down to that simple sentence. Everything we talked about boils down into, I want to lift something heavy and get out of breath, where you don't have to worry about what you're going to do at the gym. You lift something heavy and you get out of breath. You don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, did I do this? Just lift something heavy, get out of breath, and over time, you're going to trend upward. So,
bottom line, what keeps coming back to my mind when we talk about this is that anyone can do these functional movements. It just might look a little bit different for the grandma versus the college student. So it's not necessarily that grandma can't do, a squat snatch. It's just that hers is going to look a little different than the college student. So we do high intensity movements. We do some challenging movements inside of this gym, but that doesn't mean that it's not an approachable program for anybody that wants to try it. And that's the message that I personally resonate with the most, is that this program can be for any age level, any fitness level, and anyone that wants to challenge themselves to get more fit.
That's good.
Yeah, for me, the bottom line and why I've kind of been with this for so long, and Jill touched on it, is like it's infinitely challenging. And because of that, I feel that I believe anyone else can do it well into their 90s. So this is not, to me, like a health trend. I think it's a lifestyle approach to saying, hey, I want to be able to play with my grandkids.
Yes.
But to get to your bottom line thing, I think squatting in general has the best bang for your buck. So I typically do some sort of squats with some sort of aerobic piece, rowing, squatting, and running or something like that. I think gives you the best bang for your buck all day.
I love that, guys. So as we conclude this conversation on what is fitness, I have a simple last-minute question for both you guys to answer as we conclude. So,
it's my favorite.
Jill, this is going to be for you first, and then Hunter, you're going to answer. Same question. Top 3 dinner guests, dead or alive. Go. You can invite anybody you want to, dead or alive, to dinner. It's just you and these 3 people. Who are the top 3 dinner guests that you're inviting?
We're going to have some great conversations because Jesus is coming to my table.
Okay, Jesus is invited.
He's coming. I also really like Reese Witherspoon a lot.
Reese Witherspoon.
And we'll go Steve Carell.
Steve, Reese, and Jesus.
I would love Steve and Jesus really just to carry most of the conversation. So.
That's hilarious. Can you imagine a conversation between Steve Carell / Michael Scott and Jesus?
Yes.
That's
why I would want to be there for it.
That's interesting. Yeah. Hunter, who are your top 3?
Yeah, I could go somewhat diverse. You stole my Jesus one, just because obviously there's probably a little bit of wisdom to be learned and gained there.
Well, that's a given.
Yeah, so if we took Jesus off the table, not that I would,
because he's at my table.
Yeah, but I guess I get
I
get a token invite to your dinner.
Maybe.
So I would say Michael Jackson.
Michael, MJ, come on.
Hunter just wants to learn some dance moves.
No, I think someone that's been through that much of a whirlwind in life probably has some interesting perspectives.
That's good.
Crazy, good and bad.
Yeah,
a lot of bad too. Him, I was gonna say Will Ferrell because that would be an interesting recipe for some conversations. Third one, I don't know. Like, what about so if Jesus wasn't coming, what about Mother Teresa?
Ooh.
Can't wait to hear what Mother Teresa and Will Ferrell would have to say to each other.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
If I had to answer that question, I had no idea. I think one of them would be one of them would be Ben Rector. He's always a musician of mine that I've always enjoyed. He's always been quirky enough that I'm like, I think we would be friends.
Yeah.
Probably Paul from Scripture.
There you go. Hunter totally just decided not to go with a spiritual person at all.
I know.
Well, Mother Teresa. I mean, she's a good example.
That counts.
She's a good example.
That counts.
Yeah.
And then I might say someone like George Washington, like back then, just to pick his brain on what it was like to also like start something, but then also be independent in and of itself, breaking off from something. I always think that'd be very interesting. But anyways, guys, we can talk about this later. Thanks again so much for tuning in. Jill, Hunter, thanks again, and we will see you on another episode of the FitCast. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining us today, friends. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and gained a greater understanding of the mission and vision of the CS&F community. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram under Cumming Strength and Fitness, or hit us up on cummingstrengthandfitness.com. See you next time.